About this time last year, I posted a video to this channel, and in it, I expressed my opinions and thoughts and excitement about shooting film through 2024. The big plan was that I would eventually shoot most of my work with black and white film. But you know what plans are like. At any point, they can come off the rails. And 2 months into this new start, if you like, this new journey of mine, going back into black and white film photography, I was sitting in my office and thinking, what are you doing, mate? Is this film photography really worth this? So I took my first roll of film back in the 1980s, 1988, August 1988, my first roll of film. I consider myself to be quite lucky, really, because I started my career in what I call the heyday of film, the late 80s through to the early 2000s. I mean, there were so many great films. Film technology was at its peak. There was a lab virtually in every town that would make fantastic prints for us. Scanning technology started to come in, so we could actually scan our own negatives if that's what we wanted to do. And it was just an absolutely wonderful time to be a film photographer. And then, of course, when digital hit and, you know, the film market basically collapsed, all this infrastructure, all these labs, all these great cameras, they all sort of weren't being developed anymore. Everything just went, you know, downhill very rapidly. It's never really recovered from that. You know, film still has a huge amount of infrastructure missing. It's one of the things that I kind of found to my cost just after I kind of started this new journey into black and white film photography. I've got 4 Leica M6 rangefinders. I've had these for 25 years, and they were what I used to make my living from about 1999 to about 2004. I have 2 favorite ones, and within the space of a month, both of them failed and they needed to go and be serviced. So I inquired with Leica as to how long it would be for these cameras to be away from me, you know, in order to be serviced, repaired, whatever they needed doing. And they came back with an estimate of 10 to 11 months. Now, 10 to 11 months is absolutely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous amount of time to send a camera away, you know. And then some people that I know very well recommended that I try Alan Starkey over at Cameraworks in Manchester. So I spoke to Alan. Obviously, he's in demand from all over the world. So that was going to be a 6-month waiting list. So I shipped the cameras to Alan. Almost within a week of me shipping the cameras to Alan, my scanner went down. And the scanner wasn't scanning properly. It was making some horrendous noises while it was scanning. And my Coolscan's only an entry-level one. It's a LS40, I think they call it. You know, I've had that for years. It's not the greatest in terms of resolution, but it's always given me a look that I like from my film negatives. The scanner is important. It's like a darkroom technician that has a favorite enlarger. They might have a Durst enlarger or a De Beer enlarger or a Leica enlarger. And, you know, they'll have an enlarger which is their favorite because it gives them the look that they want from their prints, you know. And for me, it's the same with the scanner. You know, to have this Coolscan go down was actually, you know, quite a bit of a problem for me. So where am I going to get a scanner fixed? Nikon don't do scanner repairs. And then somebody said to me, why don't you try LincolnScan? So I got hold of Graham. He said to me, yeah, we can do your scanner. There's an 8-month waiting list. You know, so I'm going to lose best part of the year. I'm going to lose the entire summer because my scanner's not here and I've got 2 film cameras that aren't working properly. I said to myself, right, I'm going to have to see where we are around about September, October time and then take it from there. But in the meantime, I'm just going to shoot digital for the rest of the year, which is basically what I did. So fast forward to the end of the summer, around about the end of September time, my cameras came back. The cameras were absolutely astonishing. I know now why Alan is held in such high regard amongst the Leica fraternity. And I'll leave links to his website below so you can see what people think of him and the type of thing that he does. You know, it's fantastic. So anyway, about the same time as these cameras came back, I get an email from Graham over at LincolnScan saying that he can have a look at my scanner for me now. So I sent it all off to him, shipped it over to him, got an email back a couple of days later saying that the scanner had been damaged in transit. On a Coolscan, there's a plastic kind of collar that sits over the front of the scanner, and this had been smashed. So he said, we can actually just replace that. He said, but I've had your scanner on the bench and this scanner is really well worn. It might be better we look at another scanner that I've got in at the moment. I'll service that for you and you'll end up with a better scanner than what you've already had. We went for an LS50, which is it's like a world away from the scanner that I sent in. Still a Nikon Coolscan, still giving me that Nikon Coolscan look that I like. It's just an amazing scanner. So I'm really pleased with that. So now that we've got everything back in order, what are we going to do from here? Are we going to go down this same route again? If I'm being really honest with myself, there's no practical reason for me to shoot film in 2025. Now, one of these photos is shot with film and the other one is shot digitally. Let me know which you think is which. Okay, the point I'm trying to make with these two pictures is that in terms of how a photograph looks, we can get digital very, very close to film. So what is the argument for shooting film in 2025? Shooting film in 2025 is about the experience. It's the experience of having a manual camera. It's the experience of winding on a film. My M6 cameras, there's nothing automated in them. If I took the battery out, I would have a completely mechanical camera. It's that kind of stripping everything back to the bare bones and then having to think about what you're doing with the camera, which has the appeal as far as I'm concerned. Well, given everything that happened, I only shot a few rolls of film last year. Looking back at my films, my keeper rate is really high. You know, I'm getting 1, maybe 2 reasonably competent images per roll of film, which is pretty good considering there's only like 36 pictures on a roll. More interesting than that though is the fact that I see a real difference in the way that I take photographs. The pictures are much more considered. I have to take my time when I'm shooting them. That slowing down gives my pictures a completely different energy. I feel my pictures are calmer, if you like, not as frantic, I guess, in their energy that some of my street pictures with digital can be. You know, they're a little bit more subtle in some of the things that I've done with the pictures. And that for me is a real positive. So what's next for me in film? I want to shoot more street with it. You know, obviously that's what I do most of the time, and I'd like to shoot more street with film, but I am aware that I can't shoot it in the same way that I can shoot digital. That will be quite a challenge, and it'll be interesting to see if there's really a shift in my style if I'm shooting film a lot. And if there is, then for me as a photographer who doesn't like to be, you know, stuck in a rut and keep doing the same thing over and over again, you know, that'll be a good thing for me, and it'll be a good thing for my photography. So if you shoot film, let me know in the comments. Why do you shoot film? You know, what do you like about it? What films are you using at the moment? You know, all these things are really interesting to know. And if you've actually moved the other way, if you've gone from film to digital, is there anything that you miss about film? Let me know in the comments. It's high time that we featured one of the world's greatest documentary photographers on this channel, and this is Migrations, and this is by the great Sebastiao Salgado. And I have 3 versions of this book. I have this book, which is the softcover version. I have, if I can lift it up, it's quite heavy. I have the hardcover version of this book, and inside this hardcover version, it's been signed by Salgado. Okay, I don't know if you can see that on camera. Anyway, you lot are privileged because nobody is allowed to see this book. Nobody is allowed to touch this book except for me. Migrations was my first introduction to Salgado's work 25 years ago. And this book affected me in ways that I cannot even hope to express through a YouTube video. Okay, this book is incredibly important to me. The fact that this book is signed by Salgado is important to me, and this book has its own place on my bookshelf, and it's hardly ever touched. As I say, I have the softcover version, which, you know, I've looked at, and it's, as you can see, probably you can see on camera, it's a little bit more battered than the other version. They're getting quite expensive now, these original first editions. So when they released this, which is called Exodus, 2016, something like that, I went and bought one, okay, just to take the wear off the other 2 books. And this is basically Migrations with a different cover. Everything else, the sequencing in the book, the photographs, the size, everything is exactly the same as Migrations. But because this book is so bloody heavy, I'm going to be showing you some pictures from the softcover version because it's just easier for me to handle. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I met Salgado once. I was lucky enough to meet him backstage at the photography show at Birmingham NEC in 2018, something like that. I can't remember the exact date. We actually didn't mention photography at all, which is really quite funny. We actually joked about eyebrows. I've met photographers who have been absolute dicks, you know, because they think they're somebody. He doesn't think he's anybody. He's just a really humble guy that just so happens to probably be the most, the best, I don't know if the word's best or right one, the most inspirational photographic figure that I've ever met in my life. You know, that's fundamentally how it is. But anyway, that aside, my first introduction to Salgado's work came through migrations. I know a lot of people know his work with Genesis, but for me, Salgado, the documentary photographer, the younger Salgado, it was migrations. And the first time I saw this book, it was just like, I just want to throw my camera away. I just thought, how on earth does somebody see like that? How on earth does somebody take photographs like that? And it's not just the photographs, it's not just the subject matter of the photographs, it's the lighting, it's the mood, it's the composition, it's the attention to detail. You know, you feel with Salgado that his work, you know, has so much of him in it. And that's a very rare thing to see in any photographer, you know. Something like Cartier-Bresson, it was always very standoffish. You always felt with Cartier-Bresson you were looking at a scene through Bresson's lens. With Salgado, you feel you're very much part of that scene. Now, Salgado moved over to digital capture partway through Genesis. The reasons were very simple, and he's often talked about this. You know, film was a pain in the backside to him. You know, if you're a photographer that's traveling to far-flung places all over the world to take your pictures, film becomes a liability. So Salgado has used digital for purely practical purposes. But anyway, back to when he was shooting film, and when he was shooting film on Leica M and Leica R cameras. Lenses, looking at the work in his book, 90 to 28, I would guess. This sort of thing here, I don't know. I don't think you're even going to see it on camera. This picture here, the kids in the tent. I think that picture works because it's film. It works because it's got grain and it's got blur. This photograph here, I don't know if you can see it, refugee camp. That's a film photograph. And I say that because the grain, the lack of detail, the impression that you get through the use of 35mm film just elevates the mood. It elevates the structure. It elevates everything about it. You know, digital at times can look too clean. It can look too almost false. It doesn't have that kind of organicness to it that film does. One of the things, like you can see this picture here, the train station. You see all the movement, all the people, they're all blurred. Now, with all the grain and everything, it just looks almost like an art piece. You know, it's an amazing eye to be able to do that. And then obviously in here we have some amazing portraits. Amazing portraits. I think the portraits in this book are absolutely phenomenal. But again, look how grainy it all is. Look how moody it is. You can't see every pore on the people's faces, for example. You can just see grain. But that grain just gives the whole thing a much more documentary feel, a much more organic feel, I guess, to the pictures. It's the same here with this fantastic portraits, vertical portraits, absolutely fantastic. Beautiful grain, beautiful mood. Just look at this picture here of the tents. Just breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking, you know. So for me, this one here, Migrations or Exodus, as we're talking about today, this one for me it was my first introduction to Salgado's work. And I think if you're a fan of Salgado, if you're a fan of any sort of documentary photography, you know, this has got to be a book that you've got to have on your bookshelf. The pictures never look dated. They never look twee. If you want real photography inspiration, just get a Salgado book. You know, look at the way he puts his photographs together. Look at the way he addresses composition and light. You know, and how he uses composition and light to enhance mood. Look at the way that he structures his pictures, how he's not afraid to get really close to people. You know, just you can only ever dream of taking a photograph like that. You know, it's incredible. You will learn far more from a book like this than you will from any YouTube video. As ever, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments on anything that I've been covering in this video, let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.